Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be back here with another author of Inspired Living. I'm Crystal Hill. I'm the founder of Hill House Publishing. And it is just my great pleasure to introduce you to Samantha Louise, who's one of the contributors. Welcome, Samantha.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here too.
Awesome. You and I have known each other for quite a little while, quite a little while. That's a contradiction in terms, but, beginning of the year, depends on what your perspective is on that. But I feel like I've got to know you really well, and I'd love you to share what it is that you do in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I feel the same way. Sometimes you meet people, sometimes I meet people, and I feel immediately a resonance or not. And I think the first time that we met was really through the exploration of what I'm what I'm going to do more of in my life, letting
Yes.
go of things that I have been doing that aren't really filling my cup or filling my soul. So it has been a really beautiful 6 or 7 months of getting to know each other and starting out with that really deep self work and soul work of exploring what does it look like for me to serve girls and women in the world, and who exactly are those people? What are the phases of work that we do together? And I think with you, um, the coolest part of my self discovery and service journey was articulating between the phases of girlhood, teenhood, and womanhood. And for me, helping people in any of those developmental phases of life to explore selfhood, their relationship to self, sisterhood, their relationship to other girls and women, and leaderhood, which is a word we had to make up because we couldn't quite figure out what this realm of girls and women who lead people, who inspire change in the world. Was it businesshood, or we had all these other terms, and then leaderhood is what it came down to, and that's really the big passion area. So from selfhood to leaderhood, how do we show
Mm.
up to inspire ourselves or live inspired so we can inspire others? That's what I do.
Exactly. I love it. And yes, it's been such a pleasure and joy to be part of that journey of really fine-tuning that message of what is that and what does that look like? And yeah, because it's not just, I remember we were talking about having to have an ideal client, that
Mhm.
one particular person. And I feel like there's more and more people are saying, well, you don't have to have just one. And in your case, I feel it's you're creating this beautiful journey, and it's such a clear one, and so therefore you don't have to have one because it's one phase into the other.
Yeah.
um, and of course, when you're writing a book, you want to speak to just one person, or if you're writing a chapter, you can write different books for different ones, but if you're
Mhm.
writing a book like in this case, you're probably speaking more to the leaderhood people,
Mhm.
than the girlhood, the selfhood, or
Right.
the girls. And I think that is really important when we're writing, that we're very clear on who am I writing to in this moment, and in this
Mhm.
moment, and in this moment. But if we have, if we're writing at any step of our journey, then that's, I feel like that's just beautiful, because we are so much more than just one particular thing.
Yes, I love that. The concept of ecosystem then is what comes up, right? And how ecosystems evolve within ourselves and around us over time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me, or tell, I mean, I know, but tell whoever's listening, tell our beautiful viewers, and why you're passionate about having gone into this work, selfhood, women, sisterhood, and leaderhood.
Yeah, I think early on in my professional career, I was on a path of kind of following high school and college where I was a really good athlete. I was a really good student. Everything I did was high achieving, super successful. And I was still on that, I guess, kind of a hamster wheel. I loved what I was doing, but in some aspects of my life, it was still just do as much as I could, as often as I could, to the best of my ability, in a way that I wasn't seeing other people doing it. in order to feel like I was making an impact in the world and in order to feel like I was worthy enough to be doing what I was doing and ultimately receive validation from people outside of me to say, yes, you're doing a good job, keep doing it. And what I ran into was not only did I discover that some people don't want change in their lives, which was a really hard lesson for me because that's all I want is continue learning, continue learning and growing. And some people just don't want that. And I couldn't understand why. So that was a first hurdle and obstacle I came up against. But then burnout, stress, overwhelm, total exhaustion was the next phase of what I experienced. And I realized the pace that I was living my life and working at just wasn't sustainable. It wasn't healthy. It was very much out of a production model instead of an inspired living model.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now that, having gone through this yourself, feeling that you don't want anybody to feel like they have to achieve in order to be worthy,
Hmm.
but feeling, I think what you're really brilliant at is helping people really find that within themselves, because that's become an embodied experience for you, that your self-worth comes from within. It is not something that you receive because you
Yes.
burn yourself out and
Hmm.
do and achieve.
Yeah. And also the exploration of our passions and our talents remain the same over time. They get more refined, but the delivery of our passion, the delivery of our impact can change in ways that we never ever expect. And that's something for me right now in my life. Part of why this this book, my chapter in this book was so important for me in my writing journey, right? To take a different angle at writing, where I've been very accustomed to huge technical reports and proposals and stuff like that, but not something that's succinct and very, for me, it was very metaphorical and creative. So to share a message and to inspire people in a different way this time, storytelling in a very uh, not traditional, but a very ancestral kind of way.
Mhm.
Actually telling my story with the feelings and emotions instead of having to have data and charts and graphs, but
Yes.
just
How
laying
was
it
that
out there for the
journey?
world.
How was that journey for you, switching into this really creative way? Because, I mean, that's something that you're doing incredibly well. Like when I read your chapter, I was just transported into a completely different world. I was there with you on every word, feeling all the feelings that you were feeling while you were writing. So I'd love you to share a little bit about that journey and that process.
It was really hard at first, actually, and I think because I've gotten so good and so deep into the track of more technical writing, I had to go back to memories and moments of being a little girl when all I did was read novels and write creative things, creative stories, imaginary stories, and things like that, and go back and say it's okay to write a story that's creative instead of having to have so much structure, and almost rigidity is the word that I'm thinking of, I guess, to let go of rigid process and structure and outlines and right. So it took me a while to get it out, but when I sat down, I got into a meditative state and everything just poured out of me all in one sitting. After I sat and worried about doing it wrong for quite a while before that. But I knew it was the first step to unlocking any writing that I want to do in the future. So
Yes.
it's been amazing. And then the weekly group calls and the constant contact with you to support the writing process. Because I think without that, I would have probably written and then deleted and written something and deleted the whole thing and
Mhm.
ended up with something that was very structured and typical and expected.
Yes. Whereas this is transformative, it's
Mhm.
expansive, it's deep, it's rich. Like your chapter is
Yeah.
just so rich because you've really tapped into that capacity to let your soul
Mhm.
come through and really share the essence of who you are, which is just so beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you.
And yeah, so if anybody's curious about reading Samantha's chapter, you can buy it on Friday when we're launching by simply going to this page, crystalhill.com/buyinspiredliving.com. There's a inspired-living. There's also a masterclass that we've created where not every contributor, but many of the contributors have created a 2-minute masterclass, mini masterclass for you to get a feeling for who they are, and to sharing a little bit about their journey and in how you can live an inspired life, or how they the kind of top tip that they found in their life throughout their journey is what that is. So you can go there right now and get that right now in anticipation for Friday. So one more question I have for you. You've done a few of these books. Actually, let me get your website up there where people can find you, and find out more about your beautiful selfhood, sisterhood, leaderhood journey. How have you found, you've mentioned a little bit about the process, like how have you found the process of being in this container of this multi-author book, and who would you recommend it to?
I think if you're a person who likes the combination of structure and creativity, like I always think that's the intersection where I thrive, is where there's some kind of predictability, but also the freedom to be totally spontaneous. So for me, that's been the difference of other processes that I've been a part of. I know have been great for other people, but for my personality and for my needs and my own preferences in learning and growing, the ability to know, or the ability to grow through structure, knowing that we were going to see each other every week, knowing that I'd meet the other authors, I would know somehow that the chapters are going to connect to each other strategically. But in the process, none of us knew what we were writing, right? Nobody ever shared what their chapter was about or what the title even was. So as authors, we had no idea until we got closer to the end and started sharing. So up until that point, it was really truly about the creative process and letting go of blocks and setting the intention for your outcome. So I would say anyone that really thrives at that intersection of structure and spontaneity, that's what I found to be so powerful here. I knew that I had a support system to lean on, but was also free to totally be myself.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's a really interesting reflection, a really interesting point you're making. I remember when I was a theatre director, I was directing opera singers at a drama school or an opera school. And one of the compliments, like it was once the performance was being showcased, one of the compliments one of their teachers was giving me, saying, you really captured the essence of everyone, because I gave them the freedom to be themselves and just molding whatever they brought. And I think, that's what I
Yes.
did all these 10, 50, however many years ago. And I'm doing it still. Like that link, I just recognized as something that, wow, I didn't know these people. I literally was a stranger coming in to do this particular project, their showcase. But in the process of deep listening and just holding space, and that's when I allowed them to really express who they are. And it feels like that's exactly what's happening in these projects, because there's the structure there. It's like, if we're wanting talking divine feminine, divine masculine, that I'm providing that sort of divine masculine structure and framework for the divine feminine creativity to really just blossom and expand.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's totally freeing. Right, for me, it's also given me evidence that this kind of a model is real. It's out there somewhere and it can be replicated then. I have the confidence within myself to do more like this and not always feel like I have to be nervous about the creativity paired
Yeah,
with the structure, right? It's a real thing. The balance can be made. It can be
absolutely.
real. Yeah.
And it is very freeing, and it keeps the inspiration alive. And that's what this whole book is about. So
Mhm.
I want to wrap it up here and thank you. And yes, if you're listening, feeling, okay, I want to know more about how I can bring more inspiration and freedom into my life and more joy and prosperity, then support us on Friday when our book is launching. It'll be plastered all over Facebook, LinkedIn, and other social media. So just follow us there. And you can, of course, also go and get the masterclass now. Thank
Yes.
you so much, Samantha. If you guys are curious to find out more about what she is doing, I feel like for any woman in any stage of their lives, you really got it covered, Samantha, to come into a deep self-inquiry
Mm.
around empowerment for women. So thank you
Thank
so much for
you.
being here.
Thank you, Crystal.